Welcome to the Oasis. My name's Mike, and today I'm going to be showing you guys and girls an interview that I did with Dave Ranyard from Dream Reality Interactive whilst I visited London last week. Now, Dream Reality Interactive are the studio behind the upcoming game ARCA'S, which is going to be available for the Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, PSVR and Oculus Go. Now, the game is being published by Rebellion and will be coming soon near to the end of the year. So I hope you guys and girls enjoy this interview with Dave Ranyard telling me about the studio and about their upcoming game. So without further ado, let's dive in. We're going to be talking about ARCA'S and the studio Dream Reality Interactive. But firstly, I wanted to find out more about your time working with Sony prior to setting up your own studio.
So, I mean, actually, I started at Sony in 1999. In fact, I started in 97 for a year, then went off and did something else. So I worked for Sony for a really long time, making different video games. And part of that was working on augmented reality games. And the studio I was in and eventually ran, the London studio, basically made the world's first augmented reality games back in 2003 on the PlayStation 2, a game called iToy Play. And then, yes, and then there was various ones of those. A bunch of us at Dream Reality actually worked on the game SingStar, which wasn't AR or VR, but did have augmented reality components. You could upload videos yourself and you could add things to those. And by the latest incarnation of that, you could put masks on and various other AR components to it. But my journey through there was I started out as a programmer. I've got a music background, so I also run the audio department and did some things like that. I was the executive producer of SingStar for a while. I then made an AR book called Wonder Book, and we did quite a lot of work with J.K. Rowling. We did two projects with her. One was Book of Spells, one was Book of Potions, and that released in 2012. And that was, you know, the deepest I got into AR, VR, whatever. And then I was running the studio, and internally there was this weird project called Project Morpheus, which was something to do with wearing a cycling helmet with some things strapped to your head and having a screen here. And that was really exciting. So we pretty much pivoted 2/3 of the studio to working on VR around 2012, which was quite early actually. If you think about, you know, I think Oculus was just kicking around at that time. It certainly wasn't acquired. And then worked for basically 4 years at Sony on different VR parts. All the announcements, the studio was showing content. So for the first announcement of Project Morpheus, we had this experience where you're attacked by a shark. We did a street luge experience, we did a London heist, and a few others. And basically 5 of those are packaged up as a launch title for PlayStation VR.
And that was PlayStation Worlds, right?
Yeah, VR Worlds, VR Worlds, yeah. And but I actually left before the launch. I had this itch to start my own studio. I have had, like, a couple of times in the past I've had my own business, but in more different fields. One was vintage clothes and antiques. Okay. One was music, and then to combine it and do it with technology and gaming and so on was like, I had to do it before it was too late. So made that leap into walked out into the dark forest of indie life. But I haven't looked back actually. It's been great, you know, different challenges, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. How did the idea of ARCA'S come to life? So there was a few different factors that came to it. One of our first employee had made this game Danger Ball that's also on VR Worlds. It was a game with a ball, and we were thinking of what to use as a backdrop for a game. So actually everyone knows how a ball works and the physics of a ball, and they're kind of fun, right? I mean, even now, if you get a bouncy ball and play with it, it's kind of fun, right? So everybody gets that bit. But also, when we started the company, which is now, it's 2 years in like 4 weeks. I can't believe that. Where's that gone? I said to the team, the very small team of like 3 or 4 of us on day one, what can we do that will work on any headset? And actually that was the primary driver for ARCA. What can we do that will work on any headset? Alongside Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, PSVR and Oculus Go, what other headsets are going to be supported? Yeah, right now I can't remember the list, but in essence we want it to go onto every platform, because that was the core design choice at the beginning, and partly a commercial decision, right? Because hey, if you add them all together, there's quite a decent market to go after. Whereas certainly at the time, it's getting better now. It's a bit fractured, you know. I've got Move controllers, I've got a DS4, I've got hand controllers, I've got Vive, you know. There's quite a lot. I've got Wand, so just having it gaze-based just eradicates all that.
What was the reason for the design choice of not using a controller input for the game and using a gaze-based input instead?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess we could have done something that had a simple button press, for example, but actually it is quite elegant. And I mean, I've got to be honest, I didn't come up with that. Right. You know, it was Albert and the team came up with that. I sort of think of it as I gave them a challenge. What can you do that's great, that will work on any headset? And then I think the next thing I said was, I don't know, a ball. And that was it. You know, it's like, here's a couple of seeds of something. Now go and like try. And we spent quite a long time, probably 3 or 4 months, getting the mechanics working. It wasn't. I think that's probably a big lesson that I've learned in development is the more time you can give the mechanics without dressing it with anything, the better product you're going to get at the end.
From what I've played of ARCA'S Path, it's very accessible, very easy to get into. But how do you then cater for hardcore players that are more experienced with VR and keep them interested in this game?
Well, it does get more challenging. We've shown basically you know, the other brief I gave them was like, let's make it really beautiful to start with, and then it all goes horribly wrong, so you're desperate to get back. So that was the other bit that happens. But it does get harder, but the way it gets harder is through the environment being more challenging to actually cross in real time, but also with some puzzles as well. So it's actually a longer journey than perhaps from playing the first couple of levels where it is all beautiful. It does get a bit darker, and also we've layered in quite a nice story as well. It's like a classic fairy tale, but done in a more sci-fi way. So there's a bit more depth to it through story and through environmental mechanics.
From what I understand of the story of ARCA'S Path, it follows a girl who lives in a scrapyard. She finds a mysterious mask which she puts on and then is transported to the world of ARCA, where she embodies a ball which you control. And that's exactly where the game starts, right? Yeah,
that's it. And it's her journey through that. But then, so we also wanted to tell the story, but we wanted that to be very simple. So it's done in almost like a graphic novel style. There's no text, there's no dialogue. Again, you know, that's great for localization.
Absolutely.
But it also, again, it's like that bit, you can enjoy it then, you know? So the way I think of it actually is we've got this sort of really beautiful, engaging art style. It's really intuitive and simple mechanic. And what we haven't mentioned is the music. And music really, I think, works well. And so I think of that as like 3 sides of a triangle, and then the story runs through it. And that's, to me, is the whole. And then the sign of ARCA is a triangle.
It is.
So that kind of works.
It is.
But just to go back to music as well, I was very, very pleased when we met this gentleman, Rafferty, who's written all the music for the game. It's fantastic. When we heard his stuff, we kind of knew, because he had this really organic feel with some sort of slightly digital glitching, which is kind of part of the feature of the game as well. So it was like, yeah, that works. He's done an amazing job. And a lot of people go, oh, wow, you know, the number of times you do demos and the number of times people mention the music, it's like probably less than 5%, right? But I'd say with this, it's 40 to 50%, because it just works so well with the environment and the mechanic and so on.
The game is being published by Rebellion. How did that partnership with Rebellion form?
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, one of the people who works there is an old friend of mine, Matt, and I've been in touch with him. They made Battlezone for VR, so when we were doing things like London Heist, they were on the stand next to us at E3, so we've kept the conversation going, both being like VR heads. And then when we had ARCA, I sort of went to talk to them. They've been amazing to work with. They've got an indie spirit. You know, they're 25 years old this year, but they've still retained that indie spirit. They treat us incredibly well and respectfully, which is a dream. So it's just been a great partnership. And for us, I think going through a publisher like Rebellion meant that it was easy for us to be a multi-platform, which I think is what the game needs.
Finally, when can we expect to get our hands on ARCA'S Path?
It's later this year. I don't know the exact date. We're just working with Rebellion on that. The team are just finishing it off at the moment, fixing bugs and so on. So, you know, soon.
Brilliant. Dave, I just want to say thank you for taking time out to take part in this interview. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of ARCA'S Path when it releases in the future.
Thank you very much.
So there we have it, guys and girls. That is the interview with Dave Ranyard from Dream Reality Interactive in London. Now, I'm really excited about ARCA'S Path coming out for the Oculus Go in particular. I think it's going to be a great fit for that headset, especially because you don't need any controllers. It's very accessible, and apparently, according to Dave, like he said in the interview, the challenge is going to ramp up, so it's going to interest those core gamers out there as well. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you excited about ARCA'S Path? Do you like these kind of style of interviews? If you do like these kind of style of interviews with developers, then you never know, maybe I'll go ahead and book some more. So thanks again for watching. I hope you guys and girls enjoyed this one. Leave a like if you did. Make sure you're subscribed for all my future content, and as always, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.